recorded and streamed.
Just mute.
Alright. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, bro.
How's everyone doing? Hello, I can see Chang, I can see Iko. Who's that? Muhammad. I hear your voice, but I can't see your face, Muhammad. How are you, brother? Huh?
Hello.
Alright, okay, I see Salma there and Zhao Lei. Welcome to the family. Alright.
Salam, bro.
Salam Tandis, welcome. How are you doing over in Iran over there?
Alhamdulillah.
Good to know that.
Thank you.
Right.
Yi-Chang here and Professor.
Pardon me?
Yi-Chang here.
Sharia is very far away from here, but you can see his hand. Sharia, you want to show your face?
Sharia. I pray to your mother.
he's helping me with the technology. He's the technology expert over here. Pardon me? Young professor. Yeah, he's young professor. Yeah. Okay. Right. Who else are with us today? I think Raji and just now I see Muzakir. Oh, we also have a guest today, Putri from Indonesia. She's from UKSW. UKSW University from Indonesia. She is interested to pursue a PhD with us too, so she might be joining us soon. Where's Muzakir? I thought you have signed in.
Still having lunch, perhaps, bro.
Oh, still having lunch. Okay. Putri, you say you cannot hear. So I can't hear the sound. I will check my device. Okay, Putri is saying that. Alright. Zhao Lei, you can hear me? Yes? Okay, I can hear. That's good. That's good. Okay. Alright. Chang, are you ready to make your presentation? You have your materials with you? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you in the same cell?
Yeah.
Are you in North Korea?
I'm actually using the Wi-Fi from South Korea.
You're using
stealing the Wi-Fi. You don't have here.
South Korea is the most wired nation in the world, right? This is yes. So the North Korea is stealing Wi-Fi from South Korea. Okay, if you're ready, Sharia, are you ready? Okay. If you're ready, I think the rest will join in soon. Let me see. Let me ask if everyone can hear the sound. Can you hear me? All right. Okay. Zhao Lei, you okay? Muhammad, okay. All right. Tandis, you okay? All right. Chang, you want to speak up so that we want to make sure that everyone can hear your voice.
Okay, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Good.
Testing 1 2 3.
Good. Okay. Welcome, Putri. I can see you now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, bro. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Putri. Putri, you're in which city are you in? Semarang?
Yes.
You're in Semarang. Okay.
Salatiga.
Salatiga. Alright, Salatiga in Indonesia. Unlisted. Yeah. Okay. Chang, if you're ready, we can start our. Oh, Raji. Raji, can I share the good news with everyone?
No, bro.
No. Oh, okay.
Not
Okay.
yet, not yet, bro.
Oh, not yet.
Not yet,
Okay. It's okay. I'll keep the good. Next to me, your brother is next to me right now, Raji.
Oh, hi.
Your protege or whatever you call him.
Having girlfriend or not?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Chang, if you're ready, we can start your presentation.
Okay, bro. Let me share the screen.
Yeah, okay, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. For me, it's the presentation. Okay, if everyone can hear me, then I will actually start now. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This is yeah. Right, bro. Okay. Salam sejahtera. And good afternoon. Right. Okay. I'll present part of my data collection. For this subtopic, I will concentrate on the Malay archipelago ships. Okay, the miniatures and the miniatures of ships in selected national museums in Peninsular Malaysia. Okay. Yeah. So this presentation, I would actually talk on three parts.
Chang, you haven't shared your screen yet. You haven't shared your screen yet.
Yeah. I'm doing. You're sharing Microsoft PowerPoint. Probably the screen is over.
And there you go. Okay. Types of shape. Alright. Okay.
Alright. Okay. For
your first slide.
This
is your second slide.
Yeah. This is okay. This is second slide. Types of ships and also selected music memory of maritime trade. Okay, this is the second slide. Okay, I will actually talk about some of the selected types of ship, and it will be connected on the memories of maritime trade and also memories of domains and empire. Malaysia usually would be following the history and the characteristics of the topic of Malacca Sultanate as a role to actually shape in terms of the maritime trade network. So I'll go to the third slide. Okay, so the connection here is actually maritime Southeast Asia is always a junction and also a meeting point. That is why the maritime Southeast Asia history is actually part of a global history. Okay. So from 9th century shipwreck in terms of
yeah, maybe okay.
Is it okay?
Not so good either.
Yeah, so good.
Just now was better, so now not so good. Seems like you got
1, 2, 3.
That's about 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
still not good.
Still not good.
Try turn off your camera. Turn off your webcam.
Okay.
Turn off webcam.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead and speak.
Selamat datang.
Testing 1, 2.
I still can see you.
Wait, I stop the screen share first.
Okay, yeah.
I turn off. Okay, I turn off already. Share again.
All right. Good. I can see the share screen is good. Keep on talking.
Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Better.
Okay. Better actually. So the 9th century shipwreck in the Malay Berth, it reveals the importance of maritime trade and sealing era before the European voyage dated back to 1450. Shipwreck reveals the interconnected ancient maritime trade between the Bay of Bengal until the East Asia. Maritime trading activities includes commodities mixed maritime Southeast Asia as actually a junction, or actually a particular place actually is a meeting point. All right. Okay. This is still on the contextualization. So a vast interconnected international maritime trade network between oceans stands the context and founding context of the Malay archipelago. The miniature display on the selected model.
Chang, sorry, Chang. You're not sharing your screen. Now you're sharing your screen. Okay.
All right.
All right, that's good.
So a vast connected international maritime trade network between the oceans stands the context and the founding context of Malay archipelago. The miniature display on the selected model sailboat shows in the research are the memories of sailboat are refers to the connector of the memory of empires. However, the connect and connection of the memories of the Malay archipelago on an interconnected region and maritime trade are needed, suggested with the display of the sailboat in Museum Negara, the National Museum, and Kota Tinggi Museum, Johor State. So here in Malaysia Museum, on the miniature of ships is more paramount. I found that the observation and the finding shows that it's more paramount in Museum Negara, Malay Ethnology Museum that attached near to Museum Negara, but the sailboats is actually without clear explanation. So it's actually just a display. Sometimes it display the name, labeling the name of the ship, but without a narrative explanation of it. Okay, but for Museum Negara and also Kota Tinggi Museum, they are actually for Kota Tinggi Museum, Johor State, the label is clear with actually limited description, and the description in Alam Shah Museum Selangor is actually paramount in terms of the Bugis Pinisi ship, cargo ship, but it is actually more toward the construction of Malay sub-ethnic identity on the Bugisness, right? Okay, so this is actually one of the model that display in Kota Museum. You can find it here. The description is actually used in terms of regional trade and the use of royal family. But however, for the Sriwijaya sailboat, it's more remarkable, and it actually craft in terms of the temple wall of Borobudur, of Candi Borobudur. So here it actually suggests that the ship is actually narrating the memories of Sriwijaya Empire, and also royal regalian use is more paramount, and it actually narrate in terms of this is for regional trade. What kind of regional trade also is actually not described. So here you can actually be celebrating in terms of the memory of the a marker of the Sriwijaya Empire and full stop, right? Okay, another display would be Majapahit, okay, Cerdik ship. But for Museum Negara, the similar model is actually with Majapahit Batra ship. So Batra in actually Malay language is actually sailboat or actually ship as well, right? So we can actually see the display here. It is actually a chronology of a narrative that paramount in terms of Sriwijaya Empire, Majapahit Empire, and that is actually less. These ships are celebrating in terms of a connection on the narrative of either in terms of a trading network, vast trading network from Bay of Bengal towards actually the Asia Pacific. This is some inference that I can make by actually the ship's bringer, meaning that the narrative is actually paramount on the empires by chronological order, but for maritime trade is less. But however, it is suggested that connectivity, because oceans and water are connected. So for the museum, it is actually less in terms of the connectivity from Bay of Bengal towards Asia Pacific, but it actually only shaped in terms of the Nusantara, okay, Nusantara regional history, and etc. Okay, so the representation of the two major empires in the Malay world, the display of the miniature reveal the importance of interconnected trade route in the global history. These are actually the suggested ideas for the river that can be seen in terms of it can be used to actually narrate the memory of the symbols. So for the trading networks are actually connected with each ocean, and also I will use here the entry port polities. Okay, so certain Malay entry port polities is actually like a confederation state. They don't. The early one is actually like confederation state. You will trace back to the polities such as Tan Tan, Pan Pan, and the longer period before Majapahit. Okay, so the reasons thus allow amalgamation of the commercial maritime trade, political alliance, and the influence of mutual international and local communities' interests. These crossing regions have, if come to Majapahit, it made Java as the center of the merchant, local community, and entrepreneur state as core of the ancient maritime trade in the Malay world in the 9th to 11th century marketplace. I use the word empire because for the worldview of Nusantara or the Malay archipelago, we need to calculate ocean as actually territory. Because for Southeast Asia, maritime Southeast Asia is not just only in terms of the land, but these are actually oceanal polities, right? Okay, port cities are interdependence. Okay, interdependence. The commodity exchange enhance benefit that achievement of both parties. Okay, for example, peppers from Southeast Asia, Gujarat cottons was profound trade with tie-up to the export state and in the Indian Ocean. The conversion of the Malacca Sultanate, however, practiced the commercial Islamic law and pragmatic needs for the international maritime trade. That for in terms of the museum miniature and display for Malacca is more to if we study in terms of Malacca Palace Museum, they are actually describing communities, communities and peoples in the Palace Museum. of Malacca, and some of it is being represented, like actually one of the scene represented the convert of the Sultan of Malacca. But for so-called ships, it would be less when come to narrating the memory of Malacca in Gallery B, National Museum, and also the Malacca Palace Museum. Right, ships are not that paramount in terms of mentioning. The display not a lot. Is reduced, but peoples and also goods are actually more profound. So that is actually less in terms of what kind of ships that the Malacca Empire is actually using. Okay, so this is actually just an illustration, okay, to show that our museums, the selected displays concentrate in terms of the memory of the empire, but memory of trade route that is interconnected can be suggested to add in when come to the narrative of a more Malay archipelago as a cosmology, right? Or actually part of the global history. Okay, so we'll continue in terms of here. We have some the characteristic of a entry port. The character is a connect. Sorry, the Malay archipelago as a connection between a place and also the place everyone's encounter. Okay, port cities are interdependence. The commodity exchange enhance the benefit, the achievements of both parties. Purpose for Southeast Asia is Cottons was profound trade which ties up to the entry port and the of Indian Ocean. So the conversion of Islam by the Malacca Sultanate had, however, practiced the commercial Islamic law and pragmatic needs of international maritime trade. The context of the maritime trade route in the Malay archipelago magnified over time. The fallen of the Malacca Empire did not stop the maritime trade convoys on activity. Nevertheless, highlight of Malacca as a trading center continues to flourish and receive its celebration in the Museum Negara, Gallery B, the Malay World, and also Malay Palace Museum. So our country, Malaysia, we are using in terms of a Malacca Bay orbit Malay history to narrate the most represented part of trading of empires, etc. So here I would actually found that the tradings, which is very important after Malacca Sultanate is actually reduced. I mean, the international trade, the maritime international trade never reduced after the fallen of Malacca Empire. It has actually been connected by Johor Riau Empire and furthermore the rise of Aceh. But because of the Aceh Sultanate is not in line in terms of the empire orbit of historiography, so the mention of the Aceh Sultanate is actually reduced. For the representation of Bugisness, the Pinisi cargo ship is mentioned, but is more related to the construction of Bugisness people. Bugis people is one of the sub-ethnic group in Nusantara or Malay archipelago. Right. Okay. So a post-Malacca trading network and European encounter is actually categorized and mentioned in terms of gallery ABC, gallery C, colonialization period,
the Museum Negara. So we actually put the encounter of Portuguese and also Dutch on colonial period, but not actually a period of competition. So this is for this slide here. I actually divide it in terms of there is actually a Malacca orbit of maritime Southeast Asia trade, and also the post-Malacca maritime trade is actually put into colonization period, but it's not actually particularly mentioned because Portuguese, I don't know, in Malaysian context, we take actually the attack of Portuguese and the fallen of the Malacca Empire as something like the end, but it's not the end because the coloniality of Portuguese by that period of time in terms of 1511 is actually a kind of micro colony system. They actually developed micro colonies in India, in Malacca, claims that Timor-Leste and Macau in the Macau that attached in the Great Ming to the Great Ming Empire. Okay, but the impact towards so-called trading system, it pairs the trading in the Malay network into a competition, but says that the rise of Portuguese and the rise of VOC in the very beginning until the early 18th century is the collapse of the trade in Malay world is something that can need to be clarified. Okay, so actually the Western international and regional trade still continue when actually Portuguese and the Dutch encountered. That time was actually a period of competition rather than a collapse because the rise of Acehnese and also the Johor Riau Empire is actually in terms of their agreements, and also the most important is actually sometimes competition, sometimes actually alliance in the international trade. However, this history is actually reduces into so-called colonial periods. So certain goods museum display on you have actually the plates of VOC, but it actually categorized as the aggression and colonization in galleries Museum Negara. Okay, so here is actually an analogy. So after Malacca, the narration of the history is actually like a chessboard. So it's a competition rather than a colonization because that period of time is not actually dominant, but it's actually a competition. All right. So in actually narrating the maritime history, it is actually less in terms of I mean, microcosm is actually the selection of history that you paramount, and also the selection history of forgotten. So the forgotten part in the museum display, which is disappeared, is the network of the seafarer, because a lot of literature that we can find, we mentioned that the seafarers is actually very important on the maritime trade as well, because this loosened autonomous network, they actually attach to the Sultanates. So it's like later on the Bugis as well. So you go to a Sultanate and you make alliance, if the Sultanate is okay, so we continue to lead the traders to actually the Sultanate. So if the Sultanate is actually in terms of it's reduced or actually political chaotic, so they will leave and they will attach to another alternate. So the vibrant network of seafarers after that would be the Bugis net trading network is actually very less mentioned in 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 uh, in any museums that I actually collect data. Right. Okay. So here a little bit I will actually bring to us is actually the Bugis Pinisi cargo ship is well celebrated in Selangor, Alam Shah Museum, Selangor State. Because but in terms of the migrating to the Bugis, we actually ships that is actually a Bugisness where we talk about Johor and we talk about Johor State and we talk about Selangor State, but is celebrated very well in the Alam Shah Museum. Malaysia, we divide into the museum that actually taken care by the caretaker is the federal government, and there is a lot of museum also when the caretaker is actually the state. So the state of Selangor celebrated very well on the Bugisness in terms of identity on the weapons, the crease, on the armor, and also it's like samurai, okay, and also the model of the ship. But here in Alam Shah Museum, the local knowledge of Merantau come into the picture. And also for the Bugis Pinisi cargo ship is actually more paramount on actually a Malay regional trading network. But that is not that paramount in terms of linking why actually or I might be wrong, okay, why actually the Bugis actually move to actually Johor and also Selangor and furthermore to Kedah. But when we talk about Bugisness, we actually refer to the orbit of Sultanate on actually the Johor Sultanate and also the Selangor Sultanate as well. It's been actually used as a sub-national state identity. Okay? So I mean, Bugis is everywhere. Like the Minang people is everywhere. But when we talk about Bugis, but we just actually paramount Johor and also Selangor, but not Kedah as well. Okay, right. So what how obvious is when we talk about the museums that I go through, we don't, for example, what is forgotten or actually not that attached when come to the Malacca orbit of historical narrative, and is actually example. This is actually a Kora ship. Okay, Kora ship. It actually marked in terms of the Moluccas or the Madura Island. Okay, but it's not celebrated in any museums in Peninsular Malaysia.
Chang,
Yes.
are you gonna go to the next slide or are you still on this slide?
I am actually on the slide. I'm actually moving on the slide to actually one of the slides. We have Perahu Kora.
Okay. So you want to show the tortoise, the turtle? Yeah, there I go. Yeah. Kura mean tortoise. Tortoise.
Yeah, it's a long. It's a long word.
Is it
Okay.
is that kura as in tortoise or turtle or ukoi? Ukoi, master ukoi.
They call it as the Kora ship.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is actually with cannons go to further into the colonization of Malay historiography. But you can see here that is actually with cannons on the ship. So that's why when the Brits come, they don't actually like it, so they starting to label the Malays as pirates. Okay, but that is actually a kind of colonial construction. These are actually trade confederation or actually trading community in the Malay world, right? Okay, so but however, Kura is not is also celebrated. Yes.
There are discourses and discussion on definition of pirate.
Yeah.
And what are the pirates? What are the policing of the sea? Sometimes it is a bit ambiguous, and the construction of pirates are also Western centric, as you know. And if you watch, was it Pirates of the Caribbean? The pirates are Asians, Asian Orientals, that is, particularly Chinese or Caribbeans. Or yeah, right, Caribbeans, and then maybe Africans, right? Also, they're all basically, you know, uncivilized. We are all uncivilized too. So yeah. This is how they define us as pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And also the samurais also.
And
the samurais, which is exile.
Maduras and Malays and Bugis are pirates. Oh, by the way, our you know, sometimes we are all colonized also, because the term Bugis is also associated with pirates, right? Remember that episode? Yeah. Okay. Orientals, that is. Yeah. Particularly China. Yeah. Indians. Who's talking there?
It can be constructed as they are actually the trading community of the network. Okay. Shall I continue? Let's continue. Okay. For Kura ship is not celebrated in terms of the history in the narrative inside the museums in Peninsular Malaysia. Okay, if come to come to the Banda Island, the Moluccas, you can see that they celebrate in terms of the Kura ship, but in another matter, it is actually a representation of colonialization when Admiral Jan Peterson wiped away almost the whole population because on wanted to revenge on the locals, want to breach the monopoly of the Wapala. Wapala is what? What is that fruit? In Mandarin is cocoa. Nutmeg. Nutmeg. Thanks. The nutmeg. So they actually have what we call it as the Chakalele dance, which is the Chakalele war dance, to actually remembrance of the I will call it systematic genocide, okay, massacre of actually the Bandanis and the Banda Island. So it was actually celebrated as a kind of colonialization, rather its function on a trading function, right? Yeah. So just now for my presentation, okay. So I will conclude that, okay. We have displayed certain types of ship, but the more paramount is actually we attach it into the memory of the old empires on Sriwijaya, Majapahit, and also in terms of the sub-ethnic identity on actually relating Pinisi ship to the to Bugisness, but it can be suggested that the Malay people is actually a very vibrant, diverse, and active maritime trade, which is underrepresented by the museum. It can be actually added in to actually in terms of a global history actually. Okay, so this is end of my presentation, and this part serve as a sub chapter in my research. Yeah. By the way, the Lanun or the Ilanun part, which is Lanun, is actually in Malay language. I would actually deconstruct that part because any competitor that they are the West, I mean the European do not like it, they will actually suddenly brand them into pirates. It's a colonial mindset. Sometimes that is actually internalized. My friend can tell me that, oh, you know, my grandfather is actually from the pirates, so I have to stop them sometimes that they are trade confederation. They are not pirates. Yeah, that's how I stop them. This colonialism has been internalized. Yeah. Okay. That's it, Prof.
All right. Thank you very much, Chang.
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Your presentation is focused mainly on the maritime side of your research. Yeah. What I can see that Muhtadi is here. Muhtadi, are you here? I can see Muhtadi is here somewhere. So now.
Yes, Doctor, I am here.
Oh, Muhtadi, okay.
Okay.
We won't start with your presentation yet. You just wait, right? I would like to get comments on Chang's work. Let me open the discussion to everyone, since Yi-Chang's presentation just now touched from the Indian Ocean up to Straits of Malacca, and then now South China Sea. So the range of the discussion, the scope is wide. Perhaps some of you have some thoughts you'd like to share. Please do. Go ahead. Muzakir, you look like you're ready to make some comment there.
Question, sir.
Go ahead. Or comment is fine, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Chang.
Yeah. You want to bring me to Panda Island?
Yeah. I would like to ask about the Malacca ship, actually. As far as I know, in Malacca there is the ship monument, right? The big ship monument.
The ship monument, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But actually, that is not the Malacca ship, right?
No, that is actually I don't cover that museum. That is definitely not a Malacca ship.
Oh, that Malacca ship or the Portuguese ship, actually?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. That's the Portuguese Malay. So inside the Malacca Palace Museum, which is I cover, they cut the dioramas into. This is actually the trade communities from Java, the trade community from Dynasty Ming, the Ming people, the Great Ming people, and also the traders from Gujarat, the traders from, it's not mistaken, India or something. So they cut into sections and they try to. This is the problem. They don't concentrate on they concentrate on trading community. Yeah. Can you hear me?
You gotta repeat that.
Okay. Okay. In Malacca Palace Museum, they don't actually celebrate in terms of trading ships, but they cut the display into sections, and they will actually put there, these are the people, monument, the replica of the people, and these are actually the trading goods. They are from Java, they are actually from Gujarat, they are actually from Arab, and also they are the people from the Great Ming Dynasty. So this is the way they portray Malacca Sultanate. And for Gallery B, Museum Negara, they celebrate the convert of the diorama on the conversion of the Sultan. And also you can see eventually the tombstone, whether it's remade replica or actually the real replica of with actually either Jawi inscription. Sometimes because yeah, that will be another topic. Is a Javanese inscription and the goods and full stop. That's it. Yeah. Musakir, that's yeah.
So it means the Malacca at that time represent as the what they call the hub of the Nusantara maritime. So from the
Yeah.
from your finding.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it is actually we use it in. It is actually like the years of the empires and the sultanates of Malay archipelago. So what actually given into a climax is actually Malacca Sultanate. But like just now, the historiography of connected it as part of global history is very less. Because in terms of the concepts I go through, a place of connectivity is like from Indian Ocean, the Gujarats, the Arabs. When you send your goods here, and the Asia Pacific, okay, from Asia Pacific, like the Puyo Kingdom, they will actually come to Malacca. So it's a central point that you take the goods to Asia Pacific, so you do not actually have to risk another route to the Asia Pacific, and you need to actually wait for a time when actually the wind change, so you can actually sail back. So it reduces in terms of the risk on the risk in natural disaster. It also in terms of the risk that whatever so you encounter during your sailings, faring kind of a period of time. So it's actually a meeting point that should be actually interconnected. It's like Tesco. So this is Tesco hub. This is the Tesco hub, and this is the Tesco hub. So you come actually to buy things and you go to each other's.
Thank you. Yi-Chang.
Okay.
Let's go.
In Indonesia, so people do not understand what Tesco is.
Carrefour.
It's supermarket. It's like supermarket.
It's a big mall.
It's
It's a mall. Yeah.
Carrefour, baby.
Huh?
Carrefour.
Yeah.
Carrefour.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chang. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions about Chang's sharing just now? Any question, comments? Yeah? No? Yeah, okay, alright. Okay, Chang, this is my take or my thoughts. I was waiting for presentation of your draft. So I was thinking about that. So we got to schedule a different presentation for you to present the work that you written to me, so that I can based on your written work and corresponding to your presentation. But then your presentation is something else. Your chapter 4 touched on the maritime history, focusing on that a bit. But and your chapter 4 is only the last part, only the last few pages there. Well, more than few pages more than that. So we got to schedule another one. So the next one, I would like you to present the work that you have written to me, right? So okay. All right. So okay. So you got to make sure you do that, and then I can comment more systematically, more constructively. Otherwise, what you presented and what I want to comment is two different things, right? But I do have a few things I want to say vis-a-vis your research or your presentation itself, right? So one of the more substantive matters I see, in fact, from your writings as well and your presentation is this. There's a jump between your data and your analysis. You have your data. Can you
sorry, that's a what? There's a jump.
There's a jump. There's a gap, right? There's a big jump right, between your data and your analysis, right? So I'm not sure how do you derive at those conclusions or your analysis based on the data you have, right? So maybe I haven't seen the writing yet. Maybe I haven't seen enough findings yet. Maybe I have not seen enough discussion from your side yet, right? But I would need to see the connection between your data and how you arrive at your conclusion, right? So that is an important part that you must address, either through your presentation or in your writing, right? Because this is an important point. But there are other things I want to discuss about your thesis as well. But let me highlight certain things that I can relate, or you can relate, or others can relate to through your presentations. However, you did make some very good analysis about what's missing. Yeah, you based on your literature review, based on your readings and your analysis of history, you identify certain gaps that are not highlighted, are not given enough attention by the museum. We reference to the data you collected. We reference to the display. We reference to the objects. Right, so you highlighted some very good points about the missing part that is not captured in the museum, right? So that's very good. That's a very good part of your analysis. So what we want to see is that to demonstrate that there is based on the data, based on the findings that you have collected, that those are the missing links, right? Those are the narratives that have not been conveyed by the museum itself as a cultural institution, as a knowledge-based production institution, right? like what you're saying, right? So that is my second point, right? So that's a good approach you use by highlighting in your analysis about the missing or the blind spots or the gaps based on your data that you have. So the data did not convey certain things. The data should be convey certain things, but the data does not convey that. So that's actually very, very good. But you want to demonstrate that more systematically, more substantively, with evidence. Okay. The third thing I want to say is that let me ask you again about your data, right? As I understand, your data is based on the objects and the display of the objects, right? The diorama, what the different objects they put together in what context. Sometimes they have like a little stage, a little diorama, right? As the word is. Now, you did also say in your you wrote in your draft that you were also looking at text. You're also looking at websites. You're also looking at audio, right? Are you saying using that as literature review? Are you using that as your data, that you're analyzing? Which one?
Prof, I think that is actually the data. Prof, is it okay if I exclude the audio and also, but I would have to actually analyze the descriptions on actually the display as well. But for audio part, can it be allowed to exclude that, because it is very hard to actually get the audio from the museum.
Also to pay attention to. It's not in succeeding in your PhD. It's not about what is allowable. It's not about what you can do. It's about what will ensure your success. So in research, you're allowed to do a lot of things, right? You're allowed to do A, B, C, D, E, but only E will ensure higher chances of success, right? So, for instance, if you omit audio, right? If today you go to Surabaya, the city of warriors, city of pahlawan, kota pahlawan, city of pahlawan is what? Heroes, city of heroes of Indonesia. Yeah.
City of Wira.
City of Wira, city of heroes, right? Of Indonesia. This is where the independence started in Indonesia, Surabaya, right? There's one museum, right? It's called Museum Pahlawan, Tugu Pahlawan, yeah, Museum Pahlawan. When you go down under the basement, you can hear, hardly you can hear, but there's one famous speech delivered by one famous person, right? His name is what? What is his name again?
Bung Tomo.
His name is Bung Tomo. He was like giving this inspiring speech, right? To galvanize people, to mobilize the masses against the British. British Muzakir at that time?
Yes, alliance
Against Alliance Force, yeah. Yeah. So the British occupied Surabaya as well. So there's a very important part of history, which is audio tape, right? So if you omit something like that, you're omitting an important part of the diorama. Yeah, that can be questioned by your examiners. So I think if you want to capture, you got to capture what is being delivered by the museum within that site. But you got to define your findings, or you got to define your sampling very well. Otherwise, you cannot pick and choose as and when you like, right? I see somebody is coming here. All right. Okay. So that is an important point. So audio is an important part. Now, Chang, if you go to much more sophisticated museum, right? If you've been, this museum has just recently opened. This in Singapore. It's about what, the bicentennial museum, whatever. It's actually 200 years, or whatever, 100 years after. Who was the great master of Singapore? Not no. This is colonial. Colonial. We all have colonial.
Raffles the killer.
Stamford Raffles. Stamford Raffles.
It's a scandal, bro.
So 200 years, right? Right? Singapore, Asians, we when we see a white man, we go, oh yeah, good. Consultant, white man, you go good. So we have a white man. Everyone must give way to the white man to sit there, right? Yeah, we got to respect the white man, right? So Stamford Raffles lah. So they have built this museum in about I think 2 or 3 years ago, because this is before the COVID, and given was honored to go and visit because we wasn't quite officially open yet, and their museum is so superior, right? You know this movie where the water comes down, right? Water comes down, and then they reverse time, the water goes up, right? There's one particular movie like what?
Okay.
Huh? No. Some the peculiar kids or peculiar children, whatever. What the movie? So the rain goes up.
Mrs.
There.
Para what and the peculiar child, something like that.
Peculiar children, yeah. And there's one time they reverse the time, and the water goes up, right? You can see that in Singapore's museum. The water falling down, the rain falling down, and then suddenly the water goes up. It's amazing. Okay. You can actually touch the water, but the water doesn't go up, right? But you can see the visual of water going up, right? And then you can see this whole experience of bringing it back in time, where Singapore was Temasek and Singapore was something else and all that, right? So, and that's the whole experience they want to convey. There's something similar in Philippines. This Jose Rizal, the extramural, right? Muhammad, you've been there. Muhammad was with the attaché embassy, Iranian embassy in Manila. Yeah, have you been to the extramural hospital museum? Jose Rizal Museum. Have you been
yes,
there?
You been there? Center of Manila, yes, historical part of Manila. Museum in the National Museum of the National Museum of Manila.
Yeah. So that particular museum, I thought is beautifully done. You go back in time with the experience of what Jose Rizal, the father of independence of Philippines, right? So you go back in time and you follow this path, and then you see basically at the end you reach independence, basically, right? So you go through how Jose Rizal was born, he went to the jail and he was captured and all that, and then the independence, and then suddenly you're open space again. So it's not high tech like the Singapore museum, but it's splendidly done. So in that case, I don't know how you define the site of the museum, the site where you want to capture, right? So what I'm pointing now to you is, Chang, is that you got to define your sampling of data.
Define the sampling.
Yeah. So
sorry. Yeah. That would be is it define the sampling is one of the thing on there is a gap on the data and the analysis, because the sampling is not clearly, the method and sampling is not clearly okay. Yeah, all right. So the methodology.
So that's very important, because your methodology, there is no methodology chapter in here, which is a different point, a different issue there. But but so you got to define where you're sampling, what your sampling is, right? Because yours is a special case. Right? Remember, also in your methodology, you got to define what research strategy you're using. You're using inductive research strategy, right? Inductive, right? Because you are collecting the data and letting the data define what your categories and typologies and the narrations are, right? Narratives are. Okay. So that's another point. Another point I want to highlight is, I'm not referring too much on this one, but I want to connect to your thesis, your draft, right? You mentioned many times about the narratives, right? So I'm wondering, while I was reading your work, I'm wondering while you're presenting, right? How do you extract the narratives from the displays and the objects of in the museum? Now, how do you come up with a story? This is not your story, right? The story of the museum that the museum wants to tell, right? So how you got to demonstrate that methodology, you got to demonstrate that step, so that, because there's a big hole that the examiners can attack, and that hole is from the rooftop. It's not from the window. It's not from the door. It's a rooftop. They can come like the the Israeli bomb, right? Coming on bomb, the whole building can collapse. You do not want the Israeli bomb bombing the whole building and collapse, right? You do not want that to happen, and that's a big hole. And because your narratives is actually a very important part of your analysis, and it is important in two ways. One is that you want to point out to the missing narratives, the missing parts of the data, missing part of the of what museum wants to convey, right? And that is very important, and that is a very not good and important, theoretically good, conceptually good to highlight that. The second part is that the flip side is that is actually, if you cannot show, you cannot demonstrate your methodology of extracting the narratives from your data, then you got problem with that. Then got problem there, right? So you got to rethink about how you want to do your research. If that logical step has been attacked, or there's major problem. Houston, we have problem there. You got the so, Yi-Chang, you got my point there, right? Okay. Anything you want to,
all right.
So let's get back to your museum data. In a less sophisticated museum, that is like 10-15 years ago, when I visited another museum in it's in Singapore as well, right? It was an Asian museum, whatever. I remember it's an ASEAN project. All the 10 countries scholars get together, and then we went there. We stayed in Singapore and US for 10 days and all that. And it's about Asian Civilization Museum in Singapore.
Yeah,
right, Asian Civilization Museum, right? And that was many years ago. I think at least 10-15 years ago. And they have interactive kind of display too. So that can be, and that's why you mentioned about website, right? Website. So sometimes they have website there too, right? So that is also an important part. So there is the interactivity part of the display. And if you go to Semarang, there's this transport museum, or the train museum, right? They have this. It's a fascinating museum to go to. It's about how the train, the history of the city, and how it's connected to the trains and all that. They actually have this kind of interesting electronic device that you can play with the lights. It's just something that is projected on the table or something, and you can it's like a touch screen, but it's not touch screen, right? So that's also part of the display. And how do you interpret that display into the narrative? That's an important part. You know what I'm saying now. So Chang, this is a challenge for you. But the good thing is, because inductive research strategy, right? You are the voice. You are the voice. Okay. So you are the voice. You can make as many words, symbols. You can identify those symbols, right? As you like, right? Not as you like, but you can identify as many symbols. And you are doing semiotics, right? So you can do the signified and signifier kind of thing. So you can do that. You can identify. Remember, I was waiting for the table that we worked on last time in Bilik Nila. Remember, I was waiting for that one. You got to show that one. You got to show in each diorama, in each display, what are the the various elements, various ontology, right? Ontological component of that, and you got to be the voice of those items that they cannot speak, right? So you do have some challenges there, right? So you got to think about how you want to approach this. I do have some thoughts, but I want to see your work first, right? And see, because I do not. You want to do the PhD that you want to do, right? but I'm here to make sure that your PhD succeed during the Viva, right? Sometimes you want to go, want to go with 10 horses. I said, no, we do not release all 10 horses. We take the 4 best horses and we focus on the 4 best horses. This is where you can win. You take up the 6 horses because the 6 horses can be killed by the examiners very easily. Or you can say, you put in 10 horses. I say, no, 10 horses is not enough. You got to double this into 20 horses because you are telling 20 stories here, so you got to have 20 horses, right? So it depends on what horses you want to release, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Then I'm going to improve the chapter 1, 2, and also 3 also on the research approach.
Yeah, the methodology is important. Methodology. And a bit of my initial thought, right? I'm not sure how the narration or the narratives can be extracted effectively, right? But if you cannot reach a narrative level, at the very least, you can construct typologies based on the ontological components of the display.
Okay.
Right.
So use the table to justify.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right.
You see, one thing that they cannot, any examiners cannot disassemble from your research is the data and the elements of the data, right? If you identify correctly, you can say, look, this data, this group is black, this group is red, this group is green, this group is yellow. And they say, okay, we cannot dispute that, right? But you got to show why is this black, why is this yellow, why is this green, why is this gray or whatever.
Okay.
Blue, right? So that the second order construct. The first order, the second order. First order is the raw data. The second order construct is where you put in your own analysis, conceptual categories, right? And then that's where you can connect to the real data. But if you want to put narratives, then you got a different set of challenges, right? And you got to make it as close as possible to the data, so that it's not, the logic cannot be destroyed, the logic cannot be attacked. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here to make sure the logic is strong. Remember, our strategy is to go in strong, to win the war before you start the first battle, right? To win the war, you win the war and then you go down the battle, right? So we okay. The Sun Tzu, so I can ask Zhao Lei, you wouldn't. Zhao Lei, 对吗？孙子啊，那个。So I have some Chinese expert right now in Mandarin. Hanyi Pinyin. Okay.
It answered my question also. I always have a doubt. I read through the literature and historiography. You have 100 types of historiography. I'm confused in the bush. What kind of theory that I need to use, but now I'm clear.
I'm happy with what you're writing, because I'm concerned about the writing of. Remember Taufan, who had graduated now, is the Taufan, Dr. Taufan, right?
Yes,
Taufan. He wrote about. He wanted to write about success story about youth leaders and all that. Right? So I'm concerned his piece. He wants to write a kind of motivational piece, supporting, telling a very positive. You want to deconstruct the Malay identity thing, which is a good thing. So you already have a in your DNA. You can do that, because if I want to do that. It's hard for a Malay to deconstruct a Malay identity, right? It's hard for a Malay to question his own identity, right? Just like Muzakir, I was concerned about him being critical of Muhammadiyah.
That's right.
I'm still concerned about that, Muzakir. I'm still concerned about that, right? The critical analysis. But Chang, you talk about how identity is being negotiated, reproduced, right? Diversity. You have that. So you can talk, you can use the deconstructionist approach, you can use the critical paradigm, you can use a lot there, right? But now let me see your data. So you do have something there. You can talk about decolonization as well. So you have something there. But yeah, start thinking about that as well.
Okay.
But I can only comment based on your writing, right? So I cannot comment on hot air. Right? So you got to look at your writing. But I'm not concerned about you are not having critical views. You have critical view here. So that's something good. Now I ask you something, Chang. When did Han people become Han people?
Prof, a critical view. Some people is actually an imagined community.
Benedict Anderson.
Who want to kill me? I mean, it is like the concept of Zhongguo, or actually China, is actually by scholar Zhao Lei, correct me if I'm wrong. It's actually by a scholar called Liang Qichao in the late dynasty Qing in terms of construction of Zhongguo, and also like example the use of Zhenghe or Chenghe, Emerald Chenghe, is actually towards the end of dynasty Qing in 1910. The old memories of Zhenghe or Chenghe is always there, but it is actually used by a scholar called Liang Qichao to show the imperialists, hey, you see, you come actually to conquer us, but our ships, the whole career super carriers of Chenghe to Malacca is a diplomatic ship. It's not like you Westerns to come to colonize us. So it is actually a imagined community. Like the dynasties, the dynasty treat my ancestor as a barbarian actually.
Zhenghe commanded the biggest armada in history, not just in the world, in history. No one had that big armada ships, right? And yet they did not conquer. But then you guys got to think again, right? When you have such a big armada, you do not need to bring guns anymore, right? okay, we'll do trade with you lah. Okay.
Okay, sorry, can I interject? Because
go ahead, Sama.
It's a myth that Chenghe's missions were diplomatic and peaceful. Actually, there's record that they were punitive missions.
All right.
They were not punitive towards everyone, but I think Maluku, is it you were mentioning? I think Siam and then Palembang. So
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Yeah. So towards a few of the kings, who they felt when did not align with their foreign policy. So it's not all peaceful. Of course, they were carrying soldiers and weapons and everything.
And horses.
But that's the good thing about the China as having this diplomatic philosophy, which is you do not have to be speaking strong to be strong, right? So it's that's they have a long-term view, much better. You just outlast Donald Trump. You don't have to defeat Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is just there maximum 8 years, right? It's no problem, right? So the China, there's this joke, but it's based on true account of it was celebrating the French Revolution, right? So the French embassy in Washington DC invited few diplomats to come, including the Americans, including the Chinese diplomats, right? So they remember the French asked the American diplomat to share what his thoughts are about the French Revolution. So the Americans said, well, the French Revolution marked the beginning of a new era of Western civilization. Democracy basically started with the French Revolution. The Statue of Liberty was taken piece by piece from France to Washington. So it's democracy thrives and all that. So then they invited the Chinese ambassador. The Chinese ambassador was like, okay, what does he think about the democracy, right? So the Chinese ambassador was like, well, it's too soon to tell. Democracy is only about 200 years. Chinese dynasty is about 500 years, 800 years, right? 200 years is too soon, right? You cannot judge whether the democracy is good or bad. You know, Chinese history is such a much more longer history. So the kingdoms work better than democracy, lah. Basically, dynasties work better than democracy. So that's the Chinese perspective. They have a longer perspective, more long-term view of things. So, which I think is fascinating.
Sorry, Doctor.
Yeah.
Fukuyama is native from Japan or China? Fukuyama.
Japan. Francis Fukuyama is Japan.
Okay. Yeah. They support democracy system.
Oh no, Francis Fukuyama is for democracy. He's like,
yes.
Yeah, he has to. Yeah, he wrote his latest book on identity to defend his book on democracy. Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
Bro, but I think if you ask me what is Malay, I can answer. I can answer what is fun.
My PhD is on ethnic relations and globalization. So ethnicity, you're right. I mean, I was reading about this. I do not have that problem in your thesis, right? Ethnicity is a social construction, definitely a social construction. That's why we use the word ethnic rather than race, right?
Yeah.
So because ethnic, more so Malay identity. In the Malay identity in context of Malaysia is very much a social construction, right? Beyond biological construction, almost, right? I remember somebody, a chauffeur, a Sikh chauffeur, but he said it's a Muslim Sikh, right? He said, I plan to burn my house, burn all my birth certificates and all that, and then I go declare myself as a Malay and my children as a Malay. so to get the Bumi Putra status, or the status of an indigenous people, right? Because I can speak Malay, I can behave like a Malay, right? Because yes, you have only three things you got to do to be a Malay, right? Speak bahasa at home, practice Malay culture, and the Muslim, right? Three in the context of Malaysia, right?
So, that's the nation state framework.
There's no definition of biology. There's no definition of family. There's all those things. So anyway, that's I'm with you as far as ethnicity being a social construction. It's very much, even more so in the context of Malaysia. It's very much a social construction. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You have any more comments? I do have other things I want to say about your work, but we will schedule another presentation where your presentation must be based on your work, Chang, so that I can comment.
Okay.
So you can see.
All right.
Can you see this? There's a lot there. You can see. So a lot of earmarks. Okay.
Okay, bro.
Thank you, Chan. So now, maybe we take a 1 minute break and then we will restart. Not too long.
Yeah.
I have to consult my technology expert. That 1 minute break.
Okay.
1, 2, 3 minutes break. Huh?
So we can talk.
What's that?
No, I mean, I want to share with Chang about the new book, maybe related with the Chang topic. I just buy this book about the decolonization to ethno-nationalism. This one, actually, this is derived from the thesis in USM about the what called the school history. School history. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting, Chang.
Can you stop the video?
Actually, this in Malaysia. In Malaysia.
In Malaysia, alright.
So, maybe related with your topic about the what.
Thank you.
Well, the theme emerged in the school books. Yeah.
School books. Oh, the buku sekolah, the school books. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you, Chang.
Muzakil, do you have the later I'll ask you, can I have the top title of the book so I can find this book?
I want to share sharing in your WhatsApp. Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Locate the tablet with the contract. Located a supply box. Secure that position. Proceed to the next area. This contract's objective is to open 3 supply boxes. Accepting the contract.